These are not the most popular Rolexes. These are not the most sought after Rolexes. These are not the most blingy Rolexes, although one is, I think. But they're, relatively speaking to the Rolex world, affordable.
Yes.
Relatively speaking. What is up, Watch Fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop.
And my name is Sam.
And today we're talking about Rolex under $10,000, right? The world of Rolex has become absolutely out of control, price-wise. People, I don't know if you guys feel this way, people talk about $30,000 now as if it's not a lot of money. They're like, oh yeah, I picked up a Daytona. Oh, what'd you pay? I don't know, I paid like $28,000, as if it's no big deal. Yeah. They talk about all these different crazy watches as if it's no big deal. And I think it's just really healthy for us all to take a step back and say, well, what is actually available in the entry-level Rolex market? Are they serving this space at all? So again, today we're looking at three models, one from the ladies' world, one from the men's world, and then finally one from the vintage world, which represents crazy value. I think the best value maybe in watches, period. And then we're going to bring this conversation completely into alternatives, that whether or not you have the budget is unimportant. It's important to know what else is out there. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to tell you what I think is one of the great kept secrets in the ladies' watch world that is just as important to know for men as it is for ladies, right? Because particularly when we're married, you know, what you're spending matters to me too, you know, and there's a brand that's just delivering so much value, and this is not sponsored at all, but I'm giving such a strong recommendation to take a look at this brand in their ladies collection, particularly one reference that's complicated and precious, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing. So stay tuned for that watch a little bit later, and let's get into the first category, ladies Rolex under $10,000. Now, the women's Datejust collection is actually kind of weird and interesting, right? There's an entire different model category called Lady Datejust, and those watches are made in 28 millimeter size, okay? Then there's the, you know, marketed to women, regular Datejust, not Lady Datejust, which comes in 31 millimeters.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'll put them both in like the Lady Datejust world, even though technically speaking they're not. But I think that these watches, I think that they're kind of unsung heroes. Believe it or not, Rolex sells more Lady Datejusts than any other watch in their entire collection. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild because I feel like I never see a female wearing a Datejust.
Yeah, I wonder.
So where are these women?
That's a good question.
They're not on this channel.
They're not on this channel. If you look at the heat map on the world, I wonder what it would tell you. I wonder what.
That's like, I'd be interested to see what region of the world these women live.
Exactly. I mean, we definitely see Lady Datejusts out there, but frankly, most of the time I see them, I would say well over the majority, they're vintage. They're older. They're from the 80s or their 90s.
Interesting. These
are treasures, right? When someone gets their Rolex, they wear it basically for the rest of their life in the normal world, right? I know in the watch world, people trade, but in the normal world, people wear it for the rest of their lives.
Well, the only thing that'll add to this is there a subgroup of males like yourself with small wrists that buy these watches?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe in the East Village a little bit. Again, maybe at marketing and PR firms, you know, in the city. But no, I think that generally speaking, no. And I think that one of the reasons why
I walk into your house and there's just a cabinet full of ladies' Datejusts.
Yeah, well,
I can see it. I can see that happening.
Sounds like me.
You're like, well, they're not in precious metal, so no, that wouldn't happen.
Exactly. So I think that these watches are really unsung. Because, well, just men aren't looking at them, but the colors and what Rolex has done with this collection of watches, both improve with technology, like the regular Datejust, like the men's Datejust, yes, but also with their dial colors. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Take a look at this brown dial. It's the first one I want to talk about. It's $8,200, obviously not cheap, but I think this is a hell of a watch.
It's a gorgeous watch. I mean, at the price point, yes, it's not cheap, but if you want a Rolex and you want something new, and you know you're a female who wants something that you're gonna put on your wrist and be like, and it's a showstopper. I mean, that's a beautiful color.
It's a beautiful color. It's versatile. It's definitely something you can have and wear for the rest of your life. The bezel is white gold, and it's decidedly modern, not just in construction, but even in that dial color. That is a new dial color. Rolex did not manufacture, you know, this dial in the vintage, you know, era, and which is kind of funny because, you know, all these Datejusts, if they're 30 years old, they can still look new if they're taken care of, right? So the only difference a lot of the time, so far as an onlooker, would be a dial variation, and these brown dials are awesome. Obviously, the 31 millimeter Datejust, just with classic white, is a great watch. Never get tired of it. A little bit bigger for, you know, a woman or a man for that matter, but a little bit bigger.
Big for a man?
No. A little bit bigger for a woman or for a man. And I think this is a great watch. But the real showstopper here is the 31 millimeter Azzurro Blue. This is like this mosaic dial pattern. It's all like these flowers with a diamond kind of pattern. This is an awesome watch. White gold bezel, stunning blue dial. This is one of the coolest, women's Datejust I think ever manufactured. It's a little over 10,000 at 10,500, but I think that this watch is just unbelievable. One of the big Rolex hits in the last, maybe decade.
And going off of that, when all the other watches are at 8,500, for the extra, $2,000, I think that this is the way to go.
Yeah, for $2,000 for that really special dial, I don't think that's insane. I really don't. Think about all the ridiculous little details that men pay for in watches all the time, particularly in the vintage market, right? Little underline, a little certain font, and you're paying tens of thousands.
Yeah.
So for a dial that's completely different, rare, not to mention embellished with diamonds, I think it's really fair.
I agree, and I think that in most cases where you're going to wear a Datejust, especially I feel like if a girl's dressing up to go out on a date or go out with her girlfriends or friends or whatever the case is, I think that the fun dial like that is like it's going to go with almost any outfit. Maybe not black tie, but who's wearing a Datejust with black tie?
I agree. I mean, I don't think it's inappropriate. I love to see a watch on a woman's wrist in an elegant setting, but these watches are super versatile. They're beautiful,
100%.
and that Azzurro Blue, no one talks about it enough. It was talked about when it was released, and that's it. It kind of went away.
Gotcha.
No one cares. That is an unsung hero, period, end. The next Rolex, well under $10,000, that I think is just a no-brainer is the Oyster Perpetual Collection, particularly two models, okay? The 36 millimeter green, which I recently just picked up. We talked all about it, told the whole story behind the purchase, which was totally unintended on the Zero. So if you want to hear that story and understand why I have that watch, go down below and join our community at the Zero. We release podcasts every week. It's $10 a month, and frankly, we give you so much in credit to the Strap Shop, it's free over the year, okay? The Zeros it's an amazing place. This is a great one.
Yeah.
But also, honestly, maybe even the bigger no-brainer, the 41 millimeter in black.
Yeah.
At $6,400, this is, I think, better than a Submariner.
Ooh, I didn't think of it like that.
It's way more versatile, And don't tell me the Submariner is more useful. Right? I mean, technically speaking, sure, it's got the bezel.
You mean you don't wear your Submariner diving?
But who's even using the bezel that often? I mean, yeah, sure. Someone's using the bezel to grill, maybe.
Actually.
Like a friend of mine says, the Submariners are way easier to time the grill than a Daytona.
Yeah.
Right? But I think that this watch, again, the difference between $6,400 and a Submariner price, which is over $10,000, it's huge. And I think this watch does everything and more. And when I say more, I think because it doesn't have the crown guards and the big bezel, I think it's more elegant.
Yes.
And I think that this goes way better with a suit. Not even close.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Or for that matter, any nicer dinner attire.
The one thing that I'll add to that too is I feel like the 41, like when I see a 41 for an OP, I always think it's going to be too big for my wrist, even though I know I could carry it. I think that the 36 is a little bit more elegant. You could dress it up. But if you want to be a little bit more sporty or you just carry a bigger frame, this is a great option.
100%. And obviously, these watches don't just come in, black. They come in a multitude of colors, including in blue is really, really nice. But what I think the black just does is it's right down the middle.
It's elegant.
It's classic Rolex. It's just a really kind of plain Jane watch, but it does everything, does it well. I really like this watch. I'm giving a lot of praise to what is essentially a boring watch, but I really mean it. And in the black, the size is brought down.
Yeah.
I think that the 41 millimeter in the colors, a little much for me sometimes. Got to be honest. I know that many of you out there have the corals and the greens in 41. They're amazing. The yellows for that matter. Personally, when I've seen them on the wrist, it's a lot of color. The 36 millimeter size is way easier to play with in color. Not even close. So we've done what I think is essentially a perfect Rolex for a lady, not technically under 10,000, but right there. What I think is a perfect Rolex for a man, well under $10,000. And now I want to throw it on to you for the home run here that I think, without even being
bring it on home.
modern and without being totally whatever, these watches are totally unisex.
Yeah.
All day, every day. Originally marketed to men, but today they're the perfect watches for both.
Moving on to kind of just bring it full circle, what I think, and I think you would agree, is kind of the next logical step, and it is a great buy, are those gold vintage 34 to 36 millimeter Rolexes of all kinds. Could be a Datejust, could be a Bombay, could be the one that you're wearing right now. I know that's a little smaller.
Just another Oyster Perpetual. This is a 31, but because it's an Oyster, and nobody knows this, the Oyster cases wear so much larger than there are other cases at the same size. A 31 millimeter Oyster is a hell of a lot bigger than a 31 millimeter Omega. Not even close.
And again, you can get precious metal for what, 4,500 roughly.
100%.
Anywhere probably from 4 to 6 or 4 and up, really.
Yeah.
You can get a gold precious metal watch. I went the stainless steel route with my Datejust, and I just think vintage is a great area because you can get underneath that OP at 6,400.
100%.
Depends on what you're into, but I don't think you can go wrong with vintage.
I just think that vintage gold Rolexes are, at the prices they are, one of the ultimate gifts to the watch industry. Because they were manufactured at scale, they're out there. And they're relatively speaking approachably priced, and they pack way more punch than they cost, and they're just unbelievable watches. Period. End. I adore these watches. Who can't appreciate a 14 or an 18 karat yellow gold vintage, slightly antiqued, maybe with some patina Rolex, right? The Rolex brand.
You're getting the name.
For again, the prices depend on model and size, but between $4,500 and $10,000. That category, in my view, will always outpunch the other competing categories in the modern world. Period. End. Period. You can get a Day-Date, a vintage Day-Date, head only, for under 10, right? Around 10, under $10,000. That's an amazing option.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that, maybe feel uncomfortable with 36 millimeter case sizes, and I tell them, have you tried one?
Yeah.
Because if you've tried an unpolished, Rolex Day-Date at 36 millimeters on a strap, right? The size is so much larger. These watches are so much more substantial than one might have thought, right? Period. End. And then down the road, you want to put a bracelet on it, you can. But these watches are just absolute home runs. I think peak elegance.
I agree.
And this whole segment of vintage Rolex is so bizarre to me, right? This makes no sense, right? There are segments of vintage Rolex that I don't even find that interesting or that decadent or that rich that have exploded in value, right? Submariners. I actually like the vintage Daytonas, generally speaking, but there are so many vintage Rolexes that are now auction-worthy watches that you can't even afford unless, you're just a rather rich person, that it's insane, But that's not exclusive to the watch industry. I mean, this has happened in so many other industries as well. Art being maybe the largest or certainly the largest one. And now people more than ever are diversifying their portfolios into art holdings. It's amazing. And it's easier now than ever with our friends over at Masterworks. Did you know that while stocks and real estate saw historic losses, the big three auction houses posted revenue of a combined $17.7 billion, making it the best auction year ever. The stats have been updated recently, and blue chip whole contemporary art has now outpaced the S&P 500 for the last 27 years by an impressive 136%. It's like an unheard of number. And with Masterworks, we can now get into this ever explosive world of art collecting through fractional ownership. And with Masterworks and fractional ownership, art investing isn't for the ultra rich anymore. Masterworks gives you the chance to invest in shares of multi-million-dollar paintings by the world's most famous artists. Skip that line and get priority access to the next Masterworks opportunity. So skip that wait list and invest in blue chip art for the very first time by signing up for Masterworks. So go ahead and purchase shares in masterpieces by Pablo Picasso and Banksy and Basquiat. And it's amazing. Thank you to Masterworks for sponsoring today's video. And everyone, head on over.
So moving on, let's we're value centric here at Theo and Harris. So let's get away from some of the Rolexes and talk about some alternatives that you can get for under $4,000 or $5,000.
Well under.
That are phenomenally made watches.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, keeping within that OP world, right, which is a really, really popular world because of the color, you've got the Tissot PRX, which is made in quite a few colors, and, green, mint, baby blue, all these different, neat colors. I think those are great watches. The PRX, I think, has been a home run, and deservedly so. I think, and these watches are under $1,000 significantly.
Yes.
You want to go up a little bit, the Christopher Ward 12 is a no-brainer. I would say that this one is a little bit more aggressive and in turn a little bit less of a Rolex alternative, just in design, more of an AP alternative, right? I think that the Citizen Suyosa, another great example. If you want that yellow OP, you can get this watch for $400, right? And again,
right now,
they make it in green, they make it in blue, they make it in yellow. They've done an amazing job with this.
Yeah.
I also want to give credit to our friends over at Nomos, who produce just the most beautiful club watches in all these different colors. I love talking about Rolex. I'm a big Rolex fan. I have a few. But if we're talking about one of the most fun segments in Rolex, it is color, right? Be it at under 10,000 or be it well over 10, people love color, right? The Platinum Daytona is so famous because of that baby blue or that ice blue. The John Mayer Daytona is so famous because of that vibrant green, right? We love color,
yes.
And you don't need to have this big Rolex budget to have a lot of fun and to get that color kind of on your wrist in relatively similar kind of, case design in that similar world.
Dude, that Noma, the club is one of my favorite watches.
Period.
Just the color schemes of the different dials are just gorgeous. Very well done.
And the case finishing, the movements, everything about those watches is great.
And another watch I just want to throw out here too is on the same vibe of that vintage antique kind of look and feel is the bronze Hamilton khaki field.
It's a great watch.
At under $1,000, I don't think you get more vintage inspired or feel in a watch. And something that's historical because it's a khaki field.
Totally. I wouldn't put it as a day-date alternative, certainly not. But if you look at a lot of these 34 millimeter vintage Rolexes in gold, they have a much more explorer vibe. They really do. They, of course, they were dress watches to a degree, but they have so much character, and very often they have patina. And again, not a one-to-one, but definitely in the same world. I see where the logic came from.
Agreed.
Straps, as many of you should know, bring a whole world of potential to mix up your watch collection. They breathe new life into watches. They help you pull out different colors. They give them new personality. Straps can be very addictive. I know people with 2 watches and 10 straps because it adds so many facets to a collection in a fairly easy and fun way. So that's why they become such a part of the Theo and Harris culture and identity. I think we sell more exotic straps than almost anybody because I just love them so much and I love sharing them with you. And last but not least, here's the gift I'll give you. A perfect ladies Rolex Datejust alternative that I think packs way more punch than it costs. And it comes from Longines Master Collection, particularly this two-tone, right? This rose gold with a mother of pearl dial, diamonds. This watch comes in around $4,000. It is clearly achieving or reaching and achieving that same end that Rolex is achieving at $11,000 or $10,500, right? Yeah. Obviously different price points, obviously different watches. Not a question here, but you've got so much here, and it's so well balanced. The moon phase, the date, it's an automatic move. I mean, these are amazing watches. It's a lot of watch. And again, I know that I said before about that Azzurro. It's an amazing piece. I love it, but it's still $10,500. And I think that while it represents great value for a Rolex, it's still a lot of money. And there are a lot of people out there, 100%, most people are going to be like, okay, well, is there a watch that I can get for my girlfriend or my wife that's not going to cost me $11,000? And the answer is yes. This isn't the only option. There are options from Tudor as well. But for me, Longines delivers in a way that no other brand does in the ladies category. And this is a no-brainer. Again, no one's talking about it. No one's talking about this stuff. And again, men, I think this is true for you guys too. Once you start buying watches, you'll buy watches for anybody. Not to say you'll actually pull the trigger on them, but you'll mentally shop around for anybody. Yeah. It's like, I could search for the next 30 minutes about what Sam might want to buy next or what my mom might love. It's so easy to do. start poking around the ladies' world,
Just
and
buy it for
Longines
me.
is a great place to be.
Just buy it for me.
I'll just buy it for you. It's no big
thanks.
deal.
Thanks,
But that's it. If you guys like this episode, please go ahead and like it. Subscribe to our channel. And if you want more content from Theo and Harris, go subscribe to The Zero, our private podcast community. We've got a ton of members, and it's an amazing place. We give unfiltered thoughts on the watch industry. We just made an explosive video about Piaget the other day. You got to go over and check it out. And I hope to see you on over there. It's a 7-day free trial. If you don't like it, unsubscribe. It's not a big deal, but you're going to love it. It's a great place. So I hope to see you on over there.
See you guys soon.
Whether you're a Submariner guy or a 50 Fathoms guy or a Day-Date guy or an FP Journe guy, you've got to just take a step back and appreciate this history here. This isn't stuff you're going to find in a showcase. This is not mass-produced stuff, which is beautiful in its own right. I mean, this is treasure hunting.